I think I've lost my personality. Not in a sense of like, I feel like I have no personality, because I definitely have my personality, a personality. But I think I've lost my sense of like style, what I like, anything like that, because I consume so much, too much social media.
Things to do instead of scrolling on your phone, because we all need a dopamine detox.
Stop consuming content. Stop consuming people's lives through a screen.
Hey, what do you like to do besides be on your phone?
Okay guys, here are the 5 products I packed with me to Tuscany for my summer in Italy vibe. It's very effortless, glowy, and super simple.
It will be deemed as a status symbol to be able to remove yourself and go offline, because your life doesn't depend on it, your livelihood doesn't depend on it. You can actually be in the moment because you can afford to live in the moment.
As a millennial, I still remember what it was like to have a landline in the house or program a VCR to record a show airing the next day. I remember there was a time we could simply disconnect. It was easy for one simple reason: there was really nothing to connect to. Nowadays though, I feel like we are forced to go online to make payments, submit assignments, check email updates, and make purchases. Even at restaurants, we have to pull out our phones to scan a QR code for the menu. At a place, we specifically came to not be on our phones and spend quality time with a friend. We have normalized being always logged on. We go online for work, relationships, entertainment, and even rest. But recently, something has been shifting. More and more people are choosing to log off and to step away from this constant noise and overstimulation. Some are escaping to remote cabins and leaning into the offline is the new luxury trend. Others are deleting apps entirely or taking extended breaks just to get some clarity. And all of that is not necessarily because it's healthier, although that is part of it too, but because being offline is starting to signal something. And that something is, in a world where everyone is perpetually plugged in, being offline is now being perceived as luxury. So what are the underlying reasons behind this trend? Why are people so fed up with the current state of social media? How the simple idea of being offline is being repackaged and sold back to us? And most importantly, who can afford to disconnect and who cannot? I don't think that anyone is surprised that people are getting tired of social media. There's just too many things wrong with the current state of it. I saw someone say that people who didn't experience the first 20 years of the public internet just don't understand how far we have fallen, and I think that's so true. These days, social media is basically a place of this endless overstimulation. It reminds me a lot of a casino with bright, flashy signs. Everything fights for your attention, and you're there scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, unable to stop because you just don't know what's coming next in your feed. That unpredictability is the hook, and just like gambling, the thrill lies in the unknown. Every platform is filled to the brim with short form, most of the time meaningless content, and for content creators too, trust me, it's exhausting because everyone is talking about hooks, editing techniques, and specific phrasing and trending audios you can use, all to make people stay on your piece of content for more than 3 seconds.
This is a hook. 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 This is a hook.
And the way every platform seems to have become a storefront, TikTok shop, YouTube shop, creators posting content just to link products through their Amazon storefronts.
Good morning. I woke up today and decided it's time that I overshare. And the topic of oversharing is going to be Amazon storefront. I feel like it's kind of taboo to talk about like how much you make. I don't know, that just like money stuff is so like awkward to talk about and like can feel braggy, I guess. But guys, I'm not kidding. Please go right now and sign up to be an Amazon like affiliate or whatever. Like make an Amazon storefront and start posting on TikTok and directing people to go to your Amazon storefront to buy things. The past 2 days I wake up and I check my Amazon storefront like profile where it shows you how much you made the day before. And for the past 2 days, I've made $500 each day. So $1,000 in 2 days.
Content creation is really giving me pyramid scheme vibes these days. Like you have these creators that are only growing their following by telling you how to grow your following. And then they're giving you the advice of like, hey, go buy these products that you otherwise wouldn't have purchased. And then post a bunch of content promoting these products in hopes that this brand will someday recognize you and send you on a brand trip or send you a free item that again, you probably wouldn't have purchased or used otherwise. Like, I think we've lost the fucking plot.
Honestly, being online now just feels like living inside a never-ending commercial. People curate this weirdly specific performative identities online, like you're either cottagecore or dark feminine, a classics reader or a romance reader, God forbid you just want to be both, you will rarely see that because the internet just loves putting people into boxes. We doomscrolled so much that Oxford University Press named brainrot, that cognitive decay caused by overstimulation and saturation, the word of the year for 2024.
Brainrot is officially the 2024 word of the year. The New York Times posted this, stating, often used by young people on social media to describe the supposed deterioration of a person's mental or intellectual state, particularly stemming from overconsumption of trivial online content. This is interesting for a multitude of reasons. Obviously, this is a significant cultural marker of the current social media and digital landscape. Brainrot obviously is referencing this kind of like low value, repetitive, quick, easy to consume media online. So I think this word being picked is definitely highlighting the kind of concern that we have for the amount of content we're consuming. And I think also highlights the kind of increasing awareness of the addictive design of For You pages, for example. I think brainrot goes hand in hand with digital fatigue and overstimulation online. Brainrot, I think, also highlights our fragmented attention spans. We have 24/7 access to entertainment and we be scrolling. Now, brainrot being chosen also definitely is reflecting how big of an influence the internet has, as well as how big of an influence youth culture is having nowadays. Memes and internet culture are shaping language today. Anyways, I think brainrot totally makes sense for word of the year. I think it speaks to a society kind of fighting with this idea of the digital age. We have unlimited access to information and entertainment. That's being paired with increasing concerns for mental and emotional struggles that come from it. So this is showing how memes are kind of traveling beyond our little internet bubbles, but also kind of showing this kind of critical reflection needed for our hyper-digitalized lives.
AI-generated content is being shoved down our throats. The way these types of videos just boil my fucking blood, but hey, someone out there seems to love them, otherwise they wouldn't get the views that they do, right? Pinterest, for one, which used to be such a great place for inspiration, is now buried under endless ads and soulless AI slops. Like, give me a fucking break. Social media also warps mental health. It gives you the illusion of staying connected and updated when in reality it just leaves you completely detached and disconnected from the real world around you. And in part, that is why people are lonelier these days. That is why everybody is talking about this loneliness epidemic, because we all stay in more, we go out less, we bedrot, and it's because of the convenience of social media and this perpetual absence of boredom. Makes it easy to just stay home and scroll, or watch Netflix, or watch Netflix and scroll, instead of just making an effort to go and meet people in real life. And despite all of this, despite knowing how bad it makes us feel, many of us still cannot delete the apps. The fear of missing out is just too real. It feels like we'll pass up too much, especially when so many cultural conversations now happen only online. No way you risk deleting TikTok and missing how the Astronomer CEO brought his mistress to Coldplay concert, right?
All right, come on, you're okay? Oh, what? Either they're having an affair or they're just very shy.
And the craziest and saddest part of it all, like, there is barely any actual socializing left on social media. Yeah, like, remember when Instagram used to be chronological? You could scroll, see everything your friends posted, reach the end of the feed, and just leave? Yeah, that is long gone. Now feeds are endless, repetitive, and ad-driven, and creativity mostly gets flattened by the algorithm. And because of that, Gen Z and millennials don't really post anything on social media anymore. They mostly lurk. Like, truly, if you think about it, regular people post on the internet less and less, and those who post consistently and excessively, you'll notice, usually want to be a content creator of some kind. So they're doing it to grow an audience and grab attention of the brands with intention to monetize their platforms in the future. But if you just want to share your life, well, what's the point, right? Your picture will never compare to some influencer posting from Bali today and Venice tomorrow, so the algorithm will bury it so deeply that your friends won't even see.
Have you noticed that it's become kind of cringy to post online right now? I'm Kyle Chayka, I'm a staff writer at The New Yorker, and my latest column about the internet was about something I've been missing online, which is just the kind of casual posts on social media and the mundane life life details that we used to see, like a breakfast photo on Twitter or just a shot of your coffee on Instagram. It just feels really difficult to broadcast your life on social media when you're competing with everything from AI-generated slop to dramatic news headlines to professionalized influencers who try to make a career out of posting glossy content of their lives online. And that makes it feel just a little weirder or stranger or less appropriate to post our normal lives. And normal life used to be what social media was built on. Back in the day, maybe a decade or more ago, social media felt like a place for casual posting. And I kind of miss that online. I wish we could go back a little bit more to this sense of casual posting. But I don't think that's going to happen until users actually start feeling some more agency and an ability to escape from noisy algorithmic feeds.
And we could go on and on and on listing every single thing that is wrong with today's social media, but the point is, it is no longer this comfortable, happy space for us to be as it once was. So it's unsurprising that more and more people are trying to cut back their screen time, and we're seeing a wave of these new trends that reflect this exhaustion, this collective burnout from always being on and endlessly scrolling. One of my favorite trends is this one on TikTok, started I believe by the creator Mapu, called Things I Consumed This Week instead of doomscrolling. Basically, in these posts, Mapu shares articles, Substack posts, video essays, and other long-form content she engaged with that week instead of mindlessly scrolling. I love these posts. I always find something new and inspiring for myself, and clearly I'm not the only one, since these videos get millions of views and thousands of saves. And what is that if not proof that people feel like their brains are literally starved for high-quality long-form content?
These are 4 pieces of media that I consumed this week instead of doom scrolling that I absolutely loved.
10 things you can do instead of being on your phone. I am averaging 7 hours screen time right now. It's embarrassing. My excuse is that I post on TikTok and I need to edit, but it's still embarrassing, so we're gonna change that.
On Instagram too, I've seen multiple carousel posts with suggestions for brain rot curing reads or offline activities, anything that helps people disconnect in a meaningful way. In the same vein, there has been a rising interest in long-form articles, and Substack is trending as well. Again, I personally love Substack, like love it, but at the same time I also have this urge to gatekeep it because it's one of the few platforms that doesn't overstimulate you with ads and flashy pop-ups. You can just read a couple of essays on there, or even just one essay, and easily walk away. Obviously, YouTube has been around for forever, but I feel like more and more people recently are coming back to it, and they're seeking long-form content from their favorite creators, or they're looking for deep dive videos, like videos that immerse you into a single topic for half an hour, for an hour, or even for 2 hours sometimes, as opposed to this abrupt, oversimplified 30-second information that you get on TikTok or Instagram. And YouTube itself reported that its TV viewership increased immensely, and as we know, people generally tend to watch longer content on their TVs. We can also count the rise of reading, and specifically the rise in sales of paperback books. There is this contrast of reading, which is a solitary activity that requires you to be focused on a piece of paper for literally hours, with this fast-paced chaos of social media, which is very fascinating. And while it's not that widespread yet, I really believe that physical media, so CDs, magazines, newsletters, are going to have a massive resurgence, because people are tired of subscription models that barely deliver a decent enough experience, and they're even more tired of not owning anything anymore.
You know what I just did? I bought the full seasons, all of the seasons of Gilmore Girls Marketplace for $30. That's 1 month of Netflix. Cancel Netflix, and I have decided that I'm just stocking up on all of the TV shows that I, comfort watch. So I own them. I am done paying a subscription. Reverting back to the old days. So thank you.
Honestly, that's a whole other big topic that we might discuss another time. Down phones are supposedly making a comeback too. Honestly, for me, that seems like a little bit of a stretch, because I personally haven't seen anyone in my life going back to them, but apparently Nokia re-released some of its classic models designed for simplicity and basic communication without this constant pool of apps and notifications, and that definitely appeals to a certain kind of person who values being offline. Hobbies are another big big trend like crocheting, jewelry making, ceramics, painting. A lot of articles talk about how Gen Z hobbies are increasingly elderly. People, me included, definitely have this urge to make something with their hands, to produce a physical result of their time and energy. And in a way, it's a quiet rebellion against tech overload. And trust me, I know that people are engaging in all of this, like hobbies and long-form content recommendations, and still making time to post about it online, film TikToks of themselves reading or crocheting. So there is this element of talking about being offline while still being online. Like, trust me, the irony is not lost on me. I am too filming this for YouTube right now. But still, all of this, however performative you consider it to be, still points to this growing disillusionment with social media. If you live in any major city, you've probably also seen the rise of running clubs or social clubs, because people are starved for real life connection. Jordan Teresa actually made a really excellent video on running clubs and how people apparently also use them to find love.
Some people join running clubs to shag, yeah.
Interestingly, social media does have a really good use when it comes to running clubs and social clubs and book clubs, helping people gather and meet up. And this trend of using tech as a tool to spend less time online is one I can definitely get behind. For example, there is this startup called the Offline Club that organizes different face-to-face events across major European cities, from offline cafe hangouts to phone-free dinners with strangers. And their mission is to help people unplug from technology, to inspire them to swap screen time for real time. And I think this is genuinely such a dope idea.
I think we mainly started with the idea of the benefits of digital detoxing and slowing down and taking a break from technology and the rushed city life. But having organized a lot of events and getting to know our community better, what we've also really found is that there is a genuine urge of more genuine human connection. So people really are, they want to meet others. They want to speak to people outside of their algorithms and out of their social bubbles. I think there's a consequence of our phones and social media that isolate us and polarize the society.
There's also the more extreme version of these trends, people who quit social media altogether, and YouTube is full of videos of people who spent a year or a couple of years offline, how much better they felt, how much more present they were, and how they figured out who their real friends are.
I've been off Instagram for 6 months, and here's what I've learned. 1, when you're out of sight, you're out of mind. A lot of people will not remember that you exist just because you are not around.
I quit social media 4 years ago and it completely changed my life. The first thing that I noticed is that I just became my most authentic self. You're just a much more interesting person because you're not consuming what other people are wearing, what they're thinking, what they're saying. And you just have space for your own thoughts. You have space for learning new hobbies, reading new books, reading articles. So you just become much more interesting because you're present in your actual self. You're not in such a huge influencing bubble. You're influenced by the world and the people around you in your reality, in your day-to-day life, but you're not influenced by like consumer trends, by social media trends. It's just free. This is one of the best things that happened when I deleted social media, was that I just stopped comparing myself. I just think it's a natural tendency for humans to compare. You're always going to compare value A to value B. That's just a natural human tendency. You don't need to try and shut it down completely, but it's not normal for us to have a window into everyone's lives at all times. I think that has broken our brains a little bit. When I was offline, I only knew what was happening to me and the people around me, and I think that's the way it's always been, and it felt right. It felt natural. I was really able to break that toxic mentality of just always feeling behind and comparing myself to everyone. And now that I have TikTok, it's kind of come back, but when I was completely offline, I didn't really feel that.
Yeah, social media has long been the thief of joy, mainly because it makes you compare yourself to millions of strangers on the internet, which also kind of reminded me of this quote from the Substack essay titled "Privacy is Sexy." After a week social media free, the first thing I noticed was my lack of caring how I looked or what I was wearing. There was no invisible audience of judges to critique my physical appearance or my outfit of the day. I spent the whole trip in the same 2 loose sundresses, flip-flops, black t-shirt, and jeans. I actually felt way sexier than I ever do after I see thousands of other people online every day. When we're exposed to a million beautiful people every single day telling us how to get prettier ourselves, how to get hotter, how to look better, it is nearly impossible not to think, am I even good enough? This lack of exposure to millions of faces or people giving me advice on how to look better made me feel way prettier, cooler, unique. I looked in the mirror and I felt beautiful. I was only seeing my own face and the faces of other living, breathing people around me every day. I began to think how special, unique, and beautiful are all these humans with their real life loves, bodies, smiles, and voices. All entire human beings, not just faces and bodies behind screens. That being said, despite the countless glowing testimonials about ditching social media and embracing offline life, it is worth pointing out that not everyone can quote-unquote afford to disconnect. Actually, before we even go into that, I have to say that a lot of people genuinely struggle with social media addiction, like we're talking about compulsively checking apps, being unable to stop doom scrolling, and experiencing fragmented attention spans and concentration issues. Again, on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, there are tons of videos about breaking social media addiction and improving your focus, and they rack up millions of views. So clearly, this is a widespread and deeply felt issue for a lot of people. But say you're not one of those people, you don't really have social media addiction and you're completely fine without the apps, you don't experience any anxiety if you miss someone's Instagram story or if you haven't checked your phone for hours. In that case, in theory, you would be absolutely fine just disconnecting and living your life offline. But here's where the class implications start to creep in. Like I said, not everybody can just quit social media. In fact, for a regular person, it is increasingly difficult to do so because the internet and social media in particular is deeply woven into the fabric of our everyday life now. Take Amazon, for example. A lot of people feel strongly about ditching it, which I totally understand why, but truth is some things are genuinely a lot harder to buy elsewhere, or you would have to go way out of your way to find them, and when you're already like juggling family responsibilities, your career, and some errands, like that added friction makes it really hard to boycott them entirely. Same with Facebook. God, I hate Facebook. The platform has become a mess. It's basically a graveyard of AI generated junk, but in many parts of the world it is still a necessary tool. People use it to sell things, rent apartments, find local services, and you kinda need it if you're trying to sell your old IKEA mirror. Do you know what I mean? And then there's the fact that Facebook and Instagram too is still used for practical info like uni event announcements and local community gatherings and different city activities. Yeah, a lot of people kind of have to stay online for work, for networking, for visibility, and I bet we all have a friend who compulsively checks their email, not because they want to, but because it might be work. And unfortunately, that's the expectation now. Being always available is just part of the job. Then there is LinkedIn, yet another corporate hellhole, but again, expectations. Like companies and recruiters, they expect you to have a profile on LinkedIn, and not only that, they expect you to post there and post consistently, to brag about every single shitty corporate webinar or training that you sat through, and yeah, you also need to have a minimum of 500 connections and you need to build a personal brand. I mean, the toxicity of LinkedIn culture is how we ended up with people posting about what their divorce taught them about B2B strategy.
This LinkedIn post started the original madness. I proposed to my girlfriend this weekend, here's what it taught me about B2B sales. And he's gone to do a full breakdown of the entire sales cycle, but with his fiancée. Yes, she did say yes. The comments are a great red flag, just pure red flag from Mara. Matthew goes, can't wait for the here's what divorce taught me about B2B sales next year. My wife gave birth and here's what it taught me about delivery management. James, this is the most LinkedIn thing I've ever seen on LinkedIn. Simon, I think you're going to have retention issues.
I'm excited to announce I've finished my beer.
Congratulations. Thumbs up. Keep up the good work. I'm embarking on a new chapter and will be buying the boys a round of beers.
I endorse this round.
Fantastic news.
Looking forward to partnering with the boys again for another round.
Fantastic news.
Valuable insights.
Big things are coming. Beers.
Congrats on the beer anniversary. Excited to connect.
It is with great pride that after 30 years with my wife Olivia, I'll be embarking on a fresh new adventure.
Hashtag driving change.
I'm confident you'll thrive in a freelance
You could collaborate with my wife and
On the flip side, it's not just corporate people who cannot log off, like small businesses, artists, content creators, and freelancers. They cannot afford to disappear either. Their livelihoods depend on visibility, and social media is their portfolio now. Whether you're an interior designer, a wedding photographer, or even a dog sitter, chances are you're more likely to be hired if you've got an online presence. And it's true, even if a person has the exact same qualifications, the one with a polished public-facing profile just feels more legit. Another example, because of how massive BookTok has become and how much it drives book sales, authors too are expected not only to be online, but to handle their own marketing on social media. Yes, believe it or not, but publishers now expect writers to shoulder the full burden of promotion, recording videos with whatever trending audio is floating around, and constantly communicating with their audiences and building this online persona, all of which has very little to do with actually writing the book in the first place.
So, back in the day, jingle, jingle, jingle. Back in the day, before the back rooms were a thing, okay? Jingle, jingle, pay attention, I said your favorite word, the back rooms, okay? The back rooms, dingle, dangle, dingle.
So when we talk about being offline as this exclusive aspirational life choice, we have to ask ourselves, like, who can afford to log off and who cannot? Who has to hustle for attention and who doesn't? I think this is the question that is going to keep coming up more and more, and it's going to reveal a class divide that hasn't been previously acknowledged. I mean, we have reached a point in history where almost everyone can log on, so the internet is no longer seen as luxury, it's become a basic utility, at least in Western societies. According to recent data, the average person worldwide spends an average of 6 hours and 40 minutes on their phones. In the US, that number climbs to about 7 hours and 4 minutes. And to put that into perspective, Americans now spend roughly 18 years of their adult lives online. And globally too, around 2/3 of the population now has internet access, and that number is only going to grow because big tech is heavily invested in expanding internet access, not because they care about equity or progress, but because more users means more data that can be utilized to sell unnecessary crap, and that means more revenue and more shareholder value. So naturally, in the world where being online has become too accessible, it's opposite. Disconnection starting to become aspirational. Wealthy people, they just love differentiating themselves from the masses, don't they? Like, for instance, as soon as cosmetic procedures and injectables became accessible for the average consumers, the ultra-rich pivoted to natural beauty and clean girl look. And I guess the same thing is happening now with time, digital absence, and privacy. The chat wife aesthetic, the slow living movement, the shift from money as status to time as status, all of that signals well. When Nara Smith takes 7 hours to make fresh pasta from scratch, it's not just a cute TikTok, it's a display of time abundance. She has the time and freedom and resources to do that in a way that most regular people simply don't. Similarly, being offline is now becoming the latest marker of status. The more disconnected and private you are, the more it implies that your career and personal life are in a place where you don't need to constantly self-promote. You don't need to hustle for clients, you don't need to constantly check Facebook Marketplace to find that affordable couch. And that kind of silence and freedom is now starting to be interpreted as success. I mean, for the longest time, the wealthiest and most powerful figures in Silicon Valley, the very architects of social media, have kept their children away from these platforms, and a lot of celebrities as well have come forward and said that they actually don't use their own social media, instead their assistants manage it.
You know, everybody else controls that for me, because I don't believe that, you know, I don't believe that one technology should be given to children, you know, too young. I think that it is an addicting. It is addictive. I mean, people, it's social media, 100%. TikTok, it's all addictive. And I just don't think that children should be, you know, exposed to that kind of content that young. And for me, yeah, I still feel like I'm just not ready to expose myself to that kind of content, especially when it's negative or not serving, you know, me in any positive way. So yeah, I'm somebody who really tries to disconnect myself from the outside world, still be informed, still watch the news, still understand what's going on in the world, but also be very present in reality.
And these people are able to stay away from social media because they have people around them they can rely on or delegate their responsibilities to. This is something that a regular person, again, just doesn't have. Now, what do we actually do with this information? Despite my long-winded rant earlier, I'm not someone who is fundamentally opposed to social media or technology. I mean, clearly not, since you're watching this on YouTube right now. I think it's overly simplistic and honestly kind of naive to treat the solution to all our problems to internet and social media as just reject all tech and go live in the woods. Instead of throwing the whole thing out, I feel like the real challenge is keeping these conversations alive and building better systems, and ideally we'd learn to regulate our digital habits, to balance time spent online with time spent offline. Plus, there are tons of tools that already exist for this, like timers and app blockers, grayscale mode, even just putting your phone in another room. And here's the thing, if we don't figure this out ourselves, someone else will try to monetize it for us. And if you think about it, this whole idea of online is the new luxury is already being packaged packaged and sold back to us, and brands are beginning to treat this growing desire to disconnect as a new market to capitalize on. And as usual, the approach isn't necessarily to address root problems such as algorithmic addiction or tech overreach, is to highlight these existing problems and sell aesthetic solutions to the privileged few who can afford it. Take digital detox retreats, which are becoming increasingly popular as more and more people are trying to escape this constant stream of notifications and digital overwhelm. One random example I found is this company called Unplugged. They offer 30 uniquely designed log cabins that provide busy folk with a place to switch off and recharge their batteries, each with a huge picture window that makes you feel like you're waking up in nature from the comfort of your bed. In the modern world, we rarely go for dinner, spend time with friends, or go to sleep without a screen in sight. We're always on and always busy. Unplugged cabins give you a space to intentionally go offline for a 3 or 4 night digital detox.
Do you think you could spend a full 3 days with your phone locked in a box? Hi, we're Unplugged, and we help people disconnect from technology in our unplugged cabins dotted across the UK. When you arrive, the first thing you'll see is a lockbox for your phone filled with all of your off-grid essentials. The cabins are also filled with books, board games, a cassette player, and an Instax camera. You'll also find a local map filled with all of the best walks, restaurants, and activities. The cabins are fully equipped with a kitchen, hot, powerful showers, the comfiest bed in the world, and indoor and outdoor fires. We've built the Unplugged cabins to be an intentional space to spend time offline and in nature, because let's face it, humans weren't born to be online all the time.
And all of this sounds fine and dandy until you check the prices you have to pay for this luxury, around 700 euros for a minimum of 3 night stay. Now, to be fair, if you were renting a nice cabin in the woods from any other listing, you would probably pay something similar or maybe a price just a little bit lower. But what is fascinating to me is how this experience is being sold. Like, you're not just paying for a nice cabin, you're paying for this feeling of being disconnected, for the aesthetics of being offline, for the luxury of escape and nature. And the same goes for those TikToks filmed in offensively gorgeous places like beaches, islands, and mountaintops with offline is the new luxury text plastered over them. Like, yeah, it's a lot easier to be offline when you can afford to be there in the first place, right? Like, most of us are online because we use social media as a form of escapism from our shitty lives. So maybe that is the root of the problem, and maybe instead of selling and buying this connection as a product, we should be asking why so many of us feel the need to constantly escape in the first place. You know what? This whole idea of offline is the new luxury reminds me a lot of wellness culture, or better say wellness capitalism, where basic human needs like slowness and silence and rest, relaxation, nature, even boredom are no longer these simple things that we can easily access. It's the specific language and framing that is used to sell the simple ideas back to us. You're not just going for a simple walk anymore. No. You're forest bathing. You're not just turning your phone off. You're dopamine fasting, right? And in the same vein, these cabins and retreats and luxurious holidays reflect just how difficult it has become for many of us to just unplug on our own without any additional help. And to be fair, I see nothing wrong in paying for rest and disconnection in one of these cabins or wherever else. If you can afford it, I mean, go for it. I would book one of these cabins myself. They look absolutely amazing, but we just need to be aware of this kind of marketing and what's actually being sold here. Not necessarily rest, but this sense of luxury and otherness and exclusivity. And here's the kicker. Most of us do have access to a version of that. Yeah, maybe it's not a luxury cabin in Wales, but we can absolutely go for a walk in the woods, or at least in local park. We can leave our phones behind for a few hours, and we don't need this activity to be all branded and aestheticized for it to be valid, okay? Yeah, I don't really have much else to say, and sorry that this video doesn't really have a proper conclusion, but as always, just let me know your thoughts and we can discuss in the comments. And yeah, stay safe guys. I'll see you in my next one.